Good evening, happy live. I hope you guys are all well and having a super Wednesday so far. This may be my last live at this location. I'm not quite sure. We are in the middle of moving and my mother-in-law will be here next week, so I'm not really sure if I will do this next week or not, but if not, I will do it the week after at the new location, okay? So again, thank you guys for popping in. I'm going to do my normal, which is answer your guys' questions that have come in throughout the week, some of the questions, as well as do happy news, as well as your real estate updates, okay? And feel free to ask any questions. You can type them in the chat and I will answer them for you. If you're too embarrassed to or what have you, you can ask me privately once I'm done, or you can put them in throughout the week and I can just return your email or call or what have you. No worries. No question is ever a dumb question. So we'll dive into the first question. Speaking of questions, and the first question comes from Jim, and Jim is from Bradford. So Jim from Bradford says, what happens if someone buys my home and puts a long closing to sell their home but doesn't sell it? Thank you, Jim, for asking. So hopefully that obviously doesn't happen. But if that does happen, you can go after them for damages. So let's just say they put $100,000 down. So you get their $100,000, like it can't be released back to them unless a judge says to, which obviously a judge is not going to, since they signed a firm and legal binding agreement. They didn't do their side of it, right, which was close on the property. So the judge is not going to want to give them their $100,000 back. And then let's just say, for example, you sold it to them for $1 million and then you end up selling it to somebody else for $800,000. You can go after them for that $200,000. Plus, let's just say you had to pay extra bridge financing. You had to pay for a hotel. You had to pay for movers twice. You had to pay for this, that, the other. You can go off after them for all of the damages, okay? So again, hopefully that never happens, but you can go after them for things if that were to be the case, as well as, hold a deposit. And the only way they would get their deposit back is if a judge said that they were, allowed to get it back, but no judge that I know of is going to do that, okay? So thank you for asking. We're going to do a couple of happy stories before the real estate updates, and then we'll get into that. But feel free, again, to ask any questions throughout this. So there was he's only 5, but a little guy who's 5, and his parents obviously were raising him. He's an only child, and his mom was going through a bit of a tougher time. She had leukemia, so for 2 years they were going to treatment and stuff. And so basically the parents said, hey, instead of this little guy, being stressed and going to the hospital to see his mom and so forth, why don't we start this book and say all of these nice acts that we're going to do? So just small acts. Could be holding the door open for somebody. It could be paying for somebody's groceries. It could be lending somebody a smile, etc. So they wrote everything down basically for 2 years, all these little things that they did. And then once his mom got better, the little boy didn't want to stop. So the dad said, okay, let's see what other people are doing in nice acts. So they ended up making a whole book of all these nice acts that all these people were doing. And something that I thought was cute is they have a little section in it. What's it called? I can't even see what the section is called. I know there was this part that basically said like how you could do it in your hometown kind of thing. So you could copy basically what they did, in our hometown, we started this organization or whatever. So there was like a little section you could copy. And now their book, it's a nonprofit. It sold over 100,000 copies. Not 100,000 copies, made $100,000. And they're, of course, just putting that back into the community. And it's called Humankind. So a space, not just humankind, but human space kind. So I like that. Next question is from Jill, and Jill is in Barrie. So Jill asks, we have our garage finished like an office. Should we rip it out before we sell? Thank you, Jill, for asking. I've actually also done that before as well. And I did not rip it out before I sold. The people who bought it ended up being an esthetician. So she liked it and she could do like lashes or facials or whatever out of that. So I personally wouldn't do it. If, for example, you ripped it out and you weren't ready till like March or April, which is supposed to be like the lowest of low in the economy for the real estate market. So then you just spent all this money ripping it out and you might get less for your home because of interest rates, because of everything that they're predicting, etc. So I personally wouldn't. If somebody doesn't like it right now, they'll say, hey, I don't like this, and then they'll just offer you a different price. So I personally wouldn't, but thank you for asking. Next thing is basically a kind of famous lady. Most famous foster lady, we should say. Her name is Danielle, and 16 years ago, she fostered her first child, and then within a year, she adopted one of those children, and then she got pregnant with one of her own children. And most times, like in foster care, if somebody, has their own children, then they stop at fostering, etc., because they start their own family and so forth. But she kept going. And she even started a nonprofit, and it is called One Simple Wish. And basically, if people wanted to help out, but they didn't want to bring kids into their home, but they're like, hey, I'll give $100, I'll give $5,000 or what have you. So that's what they were doing. And in the 16 years, or I guess 15 and a half years now, she's raised over $15 million and helped over 250,000 foster kids, which I think is super awesome. So they just actually flew 7 foster kids. It was like a contest or what have you. So the 7 that won got flown to New York City. They didn't know why. They knew obviously they had won something because they got a free flight, but they didn't know. And they all were given keys to a brand new car. And they also got insurance paid for a year and gas paid for a year. And it was all because of this organization. So I really love that. That's cool. Just wanting to help out in whatever way. Obviously, everybody helps in different ways. So she said it's our mission to spread love, hope, and joy to those who have been impacted by abuse, neglect, or trauma. So yay, Danielle, for all of that. Next question comes from Jackson, and Jackson is an Angus. So Jackson said, is there really any value to change our home from 100 amps to 200 amps? So to be honest, I personally wouldn't. Like, people, let's just say they're in the basement or the garage or what have you, and they're like, oh, 200 amps, awesome. But they're not going to be like, oh, 200 amps, awesome, let me give them 4,000 more. They're not going to do that. They're going to think it's great, but they're not going to give you more money, okay? To be honest, I lived at a home before. I had a basement apartment. So I had laundry in mine. They had laundry in theirs. We both had kitchens. And I had a pool, and it was all on 100 amp. So you can do a lot on 100 amp. I then got a hot tub, and then I needed an extra pony panel, but I wouldn't. If you're an electrician or your friend's an electrician, they want to do it, sure, but you're not really going to get the money out of it, okay? But thank you for asking. Next thing is, if you're headed to the beach this summer, there was a fellow, and he was from St. Augustine Beach, which is a spot in Florida, and he goes around, you see those people with the metal detectors or what have you, and so he finds rings, and it's not like most people think that it's just for profit or what have you. He actually does it because he says he thinks it's good karma. So he finds rings and he advertises them and gives them back to the people. So he found his biggest ring or most expensive ring or what have you recently. It was $40,000. He posted a video. Hundreds of people started saying, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. It wasn't. And then he eventually found the right owner. I have no idea how he finds, the right owner and doesn't know who's lying and what have you. But he said, all these brides and so forth that lose their rings on the beach, and then they get brought to tears when he gives them to them, that is worth enough payment for him. So that is what he does. So I thought that was cute. So we're going to jump into real estate. So just a reminder, if you guys don't know already, we do 1% commission. So it's listing commission. So 2.5 does go the other side, 1 to our side. But if you have questions on any details of that or the asterisks or what have you, just call the office at 705-726-7000. Again, 705-726-7000. We also will guarantee the sale of somebody's home. So if we don't sell their home, we will buy it for cash. And that's actually our investors, not us specifically, but they'll buy it so you don't ever have to worry about paying 2 mortgages. And then let's just say you're like, hey, I'm worried the market's going to crash. I read everywhere the market's going to crash. If the market does go down, you have to sell your home, we will sell it for free. So those are our guarantees, but I will jump into real estate now. Okay, let me find my page here. Okay, so there was an article today, as some people are like, oh, I'm worried about next year or what have you. And so this article said that, again, it was just today, that on average, homes in the Muskoka district are going to go up over $60,000 next year. So that's like cottage country. So currently, they're about 736,000 the average, and they're thinking they're going to go up to around 795,000, which is about a 5% increase. It's not the crazy increases that we've been seeing, 32%, 47%, etc., but 5% is still decent. To make 60,000 in a year, plus you pay your principal down, is great. Plus you had a place to live and you didn't have to pay rent, is great. And they're expecting that to be a seller's market. Okay. Other places they're expecting to have sellers markets, and I did go over this a bit last week, but every week there's different stats and stuff. So Sudbury, Haliburton, Ottawa, and the Kawartha Lakes. So those are supposed to be still sellers markets. Just because other ones are, balanced markets doesn't mean that's bad. Just sellers market's better for sellers, more frustrating for buyers. And then balanced market is just kind of like what we used to have all the time. Conditional finance, conditional inspection, sometimes conditional on the sale of a home, etc. So that's kind of that. So what they're thinking the number two, the top two picks are going to be in the cottage country. So one is rural properties, but rural properties that have really good internet connection. So you don't want to go, work from home, live in a rural property and you have no internet connection. I could not do that. I would go crazy. So that is the number one thing. And then the second thing is things that either already have in-law potential, like already have a basement apartment in it, or they have a walkout or something and you could add in-law. So those are the top two that people think, or the economists think, are going to be the top picks up in Muskoka. So that same article thinks that the rest of Canada is going to go down about 3.3% next year, but there's a whole bunch of things, and I'll go over them. So they're expecting the first half to be the hardest, feel the most pressure, etc., the first 6 months of 2023. And then they're expecting the second part to just be more regular prices. In the GTA, they're expecting the prices to go down 12%, which sounds awful and crazy and running for the hills, etc. But last year it went up 11%. So, okay, it might go down 12%, but it went up 11% last year, and the year before it went up double digits, the year before it went up double digits, and so forth. So, okay, 1 year it goes back. It's the exact same, to be honest, what happened in 2017. Prices, 2016 fall, 2017, I should do a higher thing, 2016, 2017, the end of 2017, and then they went up again. Do you know what I mean? So then it was up, up, up. So it was just that slight dip. So people that bought in 2017 spring, sold 2017 fall, lost. Just like if people bought in 2022, February, March, and sold right now, they would lose. But then it's going to, continue to go up. We'll have a slight dip, like I mentioned, next year. But then I'm sure it'll go up because of immigration and lots of other things. Baby boomers and so forth, and millennials, etc. So I won't go over everything because I kind of do the same things every week. So I'm sure I have touched on it at some point. So that was, the GTA expected to go down 12%, but again, it was up 11% last year. So they're saying not currently, in the beginning of January, it was $1,086,000 was the average sales price in the GTA. They're thinking it's going to go up to 1.2, not thinking it has gone up to 1.2 at the highest peak, and now it's going to go down to around $1,060,000 next year. So it is a little bit less, but again, the exact same thing that happened in 2017. People kind of just paused at that point, and then went up again, and then they went back to normal living. And then there's other people that are like, I just want to buy at that time to get into the cheaper. So it depends what position your family is in. So as long as they don't keep upping the interest rates, then it'll be fine, because the same as 2017. So what else? So this just means basically more options for buyers, because some people, for example, the interest rates have gone up and say they go to renew, then they can't keep their property. So then more homes will come on the market. So that will mean more homes for buyers to choose from. And then also because the market is expected to come down a bit. Again, it says 3.3 in Canada. It says, 11% in the GTA, etc. Hi, Tiff, how are you? Then it just, it will soften the market a little bit. And then some people will say, hey, let's move up to that prettier home right now, or let's move to this property, etc. Because it is a bit of cheaper, and it all comes out in the wash. To be honest, they'd sell their house for a little bit cheaper, but they buy for a little bit cheaper. They get into that great property that they want, maybe the bigger backyard, maybe the walkout basement, maybe the pool, etc. Again, the exact same thing happened in 2017 fall. So we are probably going to see that again, unless the interest rates keep going up, and then I'll muck things up. So let's not do that. Basically, for what they've been saying for neighborhoods, the main neighborhoods that people are looking at right now. So people look at proximity to highways. They look at proximity to transit, specifically if they're in city centers, etc. They look at how close they are to schools, how close they are to shopping, etc. Affordability, of course, and location in general. They're not going to, let's just say they can't work from home. They're not going to be 18 hours from Toronto. Makes no sense to them, but that's kind of a given. They do say location, 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 so we know that. So now people are putting, like I said, conditions, finance, inspection, and even the sale of their home. And a lot of people, with the sale of their home, they say, well, why would I tie it up? But you can still offer your home for sale to somebody else. If somebody else comes in and they don't have a home to sell, or they've already sold their home, or they have a more saleable home, etc., they could potentially bump those other people. Those other people have their foot in the door first, basically. So they have 24 or 48 hours or whatever's in the agreement to firm up or to back out and let the other people buy it, okay? So we often call it a back burner offer, because it's just something just in case, in case these people sell their house, awesome. And in case they don't, we're still offering it for sale to other people. So that is more what we're back in now in the normal market. So other areas that are thought to increase next year and not go down that average, 3.3% is Burlington, Oakville, and Niagara Falls. Okay. So 2 days ago in Ontario, they passed a new bill, and a lot of people are mad at the new bill. It basically puts a hold on development fees. It either reduces them, gives them exemptions, or takes them away completely, which some people might say, okay, that'll get houses faster, which is great, because they are trying to do that, because they're trying to get that 1.5 million homes in the next 10 years. But the problem with it is when they get rid of those fees and so forth, those fees normally go towards the roads, the community centers, the schools, etc. So if they don't go towards those fees, then it goes back on the taxpayers. So they are guessing that this new bill is going to basically mean that 5 million doesn't come in fees from developers, etc. So then that 5 million just has to get, put back onto the taxpayers, which is why they are not happy. And also they are, there's normally environmentally protected land, etc. So now they are allowed to build on that environmentally protected land, and a whole bunch of developers bought like a week before this bill went into place. So obviously somebody was, slipping information and saying, hey, you can build on this starting next week, etc. So they're saying like it's not allowed, you shouldn't be allowed to tell people that, and then they buy it and now it's worth all this money, etc. So they think, there's some backdoor things going on. So that's why they're mad. And also now only 1/3 of the politicians have to vote for something, whereas before it was higher. I don't know exactly what it was, to be honest, but now it's only 1/3. Okay, so they do not like that, and that's council to pass basically bylaws and getting things changed. So they're supposed to build that 1.5 million homes in the next 10 years, and they don't even think they're going to build around 80,000 in the next few years. So they're super behind on that. But every single Green Party, Liberal, Conservative, etc., NDP, they all said they'd build the 1.5, and basically nobody thinks they can. So that's that. So there's I said basically a lot. There's a thing called Municipal Affairs and Housing Minister, and they said Ontario housing crisis is severe and requires bold action. So that is what he said. And I said about the bill freezes and everything, so I don't need to say about that part. I just said that from memory. Another thing that they're not, before they used to have to say when they're building subdivisions, is they'd say, hey, does this affect the environment? Hey, how does this affect pollution? As well as green spaces. And so that's what people are mad at, because they're just tearing down all these trees, etc. Not yet, because it was just passed 2 days ago, but now they will be able to. So a lot of people are upset about that. There was a new study that showed over 60% of Canada did better in October than September, which is great. However, a lot of economists are saying don't think that the lowest of low is done and that we're on the up and up right now. It is obviously a good sign, but they are still expecting it to go down till spring of next year. Okay, so just as an FYI. The biggest gain that was seen last month, November obviously isn't done yet, so we don't have those stats, but the biggest gain that was seen was out in BC and Victoria, and then it was followed by Vancouver and Edmonton, as well as Saskatoon and Winnipeg, so they did really well last month, as well as St. John's and Halifax. So they all had single digits, but Victoria was the only one with double digits at 20%. Ottawa, my brain is really not working today, I apologize. Ottawa went down at 2.9%, so they didn't do so hot. Montreal also went down 2.4%, and Quebec City went down 1.6%. So there's a senior director, and he's an economist, Randall Bartlett, said, the October housing market leaves us continuously optimistic that the worst may be behind us. He said, but the correction still has a way to go. Okay, so yes, it's a good sign, but the correction is not done yet. But again, it's gone up so many years in double digits. Just because it goes down 1 year in double digits, it's gone up so many years. Everybody should still be thankful and not freaking out. Okay, so who's down the most in Ontario? So Cambridge is the most down there, down 22%, followed by where I was born, London, down 18%. Brantford is also down 18%. And Kitchener-Waterloo is down 18%, and the Kawartha Lakes is down 17%, which is weird because they think it's going to be a seller's market next year for Kawartha, so I don't know about that. And Hamilton and Burlington were also down 17%. One economist warned just because the correction is in the final stages doesn't mean that it'll heat back up right again. And the reason that is because, or why he's saying that, is because there's still high interest rates. Okay, so if there were low interest rates, he thinks it would go right back up right away. But because of the high interest rates, obviously if somebody was ready to pay $2,800 a month and now they're going to have to pay $5,100 a month or something, it's not as appealing to them, nor can as many people afford that. So like I said, benchmark prices are still supposed to trend downwards till spring of next year. So capital economists say, you know, everything is showing encouraging in the past 2 months, which is good, but they still are saying we're not in the clear yet. Again, people are saying next spring is supposed to be the lowest of low. And I have mentioned before about foreign buyers not being able to buy as of January 1st, 2023. So that is going into effect. And there's also $10,000 fines. So if I, as a realtor or a lawyer or something, help them out, it's up to $10,000 fines. If somehow it gets through the cracks and they do buy a property, it is still a legal binding document. So they do still get to buy it. But if they sell that property and it goes up $500,000, they're not allowed to get the equity, which is kind of crazy and weird. I don't know. That's how it goes. So that's that. It's called the Prohibition of the Purchase of Residential Property by Non-Canadians Act. And this counts for incorporated companies as well as individuals. And there are some exemptions. So if you're a student, you're going to school here, or if you're a refugee, it doesn't apply to you. Or if you are common law or married to somebody who has Canadian citizenship, it does not apply. And also it doesn't apply to buildings of 3 or more units. So if you buy a 4-plex, a 6-plex, an 8-plex, etc., and you're a foreign buyer, you can still buy it. You will still have that 25% foreign buyer tax. Okay, so it was 15% how it started, and it was just Golden Horseshoe. Then it went up to 20%, then 25%, and then now it includes all of Ontario. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, if you buy it this year and you're a foreign buyer, but it doesn't close until next year, that's okay. You just, if you buy it next year, 1, you're not allowed to, and 2, what I said before will happen. Okay. So CREA, which is the Canadian Real Estate Association, they said, you know, hey, we think you should make an exemption to this foreign buyers tax, and you should allow U.S. citizens to buy in Canada, and you should allow Mexican citizens to buy in Canada. And the reason they're saying that is because so many Canadians buy in the U.S. and Mexico, and they're afraid if we don't let them buy, they're not going to let us buy, etc. So that hasn't been said if that's going to happen yet, but so far it's not happened, but that was their suggestion. So that's that. It is not, by the way, supposed to do anything or crash the market or what have you, because there's really not that many true foreign buyers, you know, buying. So that's that. And in 1 week is the next possible rate hike. They are guesstimating it'll be 0.25, which would bring us up to 4%, but they have been wrong in the past for guesstimating, so who knows, but that is what's guesstimated, December 7th, which is exactly a week from today. So the next question comes from Patty, and Patty is in Aurelia. Patty said, does renting a mobile home fall under the same act as renting out a home? Thank you, Patty, for asking. To be completely honest, we've helped people buy and sell mobile homes, but we've never had somebody rent a mobile home. I do believe, but I'm not 100% positive, that I think it has its like own subsection under the act, and it says stuff about the park and the leased land, etc. But I have honestly never dealt with that. So maybe if you talk to a paralegal or something like that, I don't know. But yeah, I've never actually dealt with that. I apologize, but I do think it has its own little subsection under the act. So, but I've never helped somebody, so I apologize, but it's a great question. Next is, so during COVID, a lot of places in the world were like, come buy a house here for $1, or do this or do that, because they were down so much because of COVID and, you know, tourism, etc. And now there's a place that's in Italy, and they are offering people 30,000 to go there, which is actually 30,000 euros, which is about 42,000 Canadian dollars. And the average home there costs 25,000. So you get to live mortgage free, plus you get $5,000, and you live in Italy. And they actually give you half the money up front and then half the money because they want you to renovate the house. So you get to do renovations and be mortgage free. So that's kind of cool. The next question, again, that wasn't really happy news, but just random news, and it's kind of real estate-y, so that's why I included that. Next question comes from Brent, and Brent is from Thornton. So Brent said, how do you travel so much and still manage all of your rental properties? Thank you, Brent, for asking. So to be honest, everything's just on apps like Airbnb, etc. It's just on an app. I don't physically go and clean the properties. I have people that go and clean the properties. So really nothing's different. the day before their check-in, they get their lockbox code. The day after they're there, they get like a check-in thing, which is all just done automatically through the app. The day before they leave, they have a checkout thing. And so it really doesn't matter if I'm here or there. It doesn't affect anything. So it's all just through the app. I don't do the cleaning. Obviously, if I was doing the cleaning, that would be harder. I'd have to find somebody to cover for me, but I don't cut the grass. I don't do the snow removal, etc. I just find it and make it pretty. And then the rest I don't do. But thank you for asking. So you are never too old. There is a man named Mario, and he often gets called Super Mario. He retired from basically, he laid train tracks back in the day. He's been retired for 30 years. And when he retired, he didn't want to not use his body, etc. So he started going to the gym twice a week for 2 hours. And now he's now 94, still goes for the exact same amount of time. He calls all the gym rats or what have you, his second family. And I just like that because he's 94 and he goes to the gym more than I do. So good for him. It's good. And next question comes from Carly, and Carly is in Shanty Bay. So Carly said, I'm listing my house next week. Should I not put up our Christmas tree? Thank you for asking. Where I'm standing just sold, and there's a Christmas tree up in front of me. Just be prepared that, your realtor knows they're going to take new pictures right after Christmas so it doesn't look stale. I'm not against putting it up. I think it feels cozy and nice, what have you, but that's just me. There's obviously some people that don't celebrate Christmas, etc., but I'd say majority do, and they'd find it cozy, etc. So I'm fine with you doing it as long as your realtor changes the pictures right after Christmas so it doesn't look stale. That's my opinion. Thank you for asking. Next thing, it's not really happy news, but it's something real estate related. So I don't know if you guys remember the movie The Christmas Story. That was that one with the little boy and like the leg lamp and the BB gun, etc. So there is the home that was actually in that movie, and it's for sale in Cleveland. However, I don't think people will be racing to buy this house because it's listed for almost $10 million. It's 1.3 acres, and it has a little baby museum on it, and it's been rented out for 15 years, about the Christmas Story, etc. movie. But, if you want to really love that movie and you want to go buy that house for almost $10 million, it is for sale. So knock yourself out on that. I hope you guys all have a super remainder to your evening. Please drive carefully. It's been like hail and rain and on and off. Be kind to one another and encourage one another. And thank you for popping in.